Welcome, baseball fans, to this week's edition of State of the Major League Baseball, where we cover the power rankings for the week. Now, we've had numerous moves. There were a few teams that didn't move at all this week. We also had one big jump over 10, but that's because that team went 0 for 6 all week long. We've had some big moves from some important teams trying to make headway and break into the top 10, but let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Now, just like last week, unfortunately, the rebuilding Miami Marlins start off the week at number 30. Miami having gone 2-4 this week between Cleveland and Philadelphia, are 8-19 on the season, and they're pretty much everything you thought they would be, being that they are rebuilding, got brand new players in there. Not much to look at, unfortunately, and Cleveland and Philadelphia got to have a field day with them, beating them up 4 out of 6 games. Number 29, the Baltimore Orioles, also rebuilding, but as you can see here, now you've got the bottom 2 teams are the teams in which last year you knew were going to be struggling this year because they gave out all their veterans and all their star talent. Now they're trying to get some experience under the belt for their new talent. So Baltimore, having gone also 2 wins and 4 losses between Chicago White Sox and the Minnesota Twins, will come in this week at 10 wins and 18 losses. These 2 teams both did not move from last week. They are the 2 of the 3 that did not move at all this week. The rest of the field is wide open with moves up and down. So let's get into it, shall we? Coming in at number 28, down 5 from last week, are the Chicago White Sox. I get it that Chicago White Sox fans believe that they are being unfairly detrimented by analysts at Major League Baseball and ESPN. Totally get that. I see the bias all the time. But this is based upon play on the field. And this past week, they won 2 but lost 3 against Baltimore and Detroit. So when you're going against a team lower in the ranks than you are and you're not winning, and then you will go against the Detroit Tigers, who are mediocre at best, and you don't win, it suffers in your power rankings. They are at 10 wins and 14 losses on the season, and they just had a down week. Can they fix it? Sure. It's still early in the season. You don't even finish the first month until midweek, and then you get all of those kinks out of your system and hopefully begin to move forward. So they're down 5 this week. Coming in at 27, the Kansas City Royals, who did not move at all from last week. They went 2 wins and 4 losses against the Tampa Bay Rays and the Los Angeles Angels. They had a bad week, and as much as some of their talent might be up and coming, they just didn't perform well this week. And when you're doing the opposite of what you need to do to be successful, i.e. 4 wins and 2 losses, 2 out of 3 out of every game, unfortunately, you suffer for that. Now, because they've been down here, having a bad week meant, compared to the other teams, they just didn't move. Coming in, number 26, are the San Francisco Giants. I know I've been kind of caught up on saying the 49ers the last couple weeks, and my apologies to Giants fans for that. This week, the Giants went 3 wins and 2 losses against Toronto and New York. Those 3 wins were against Toronto. The 2 losses were against New York. They are up 1 from last week because the other teams were just worse. So, congratulations on moving up a single spot, but they're still struggling. Their pitching isn't great. Their defense isn't great. Their lineup isn't great. You've still got Buster Posey, but he's an aging Buster Posey. While you still have your manager, Bucci, from the championship days, they don't have the same talent in the roster. They are more or less rebuilding. They have some brand names in there like Madison Bumgarner and Derek Holland, but you're also talking about pitchers who are past their prime. Are they good? Yes. Are they elite? That's up for debate. But moving right along, Coming in at number 25, the Boston Red Sox, who are down 1 from last week, having won 3 games and lost 2 against the Detroit Tigers and the Tampa Bay Rays. They come in at 11 wins and 16 losses. And here's the reality of the matter is, they might have had a bad April, but any team can rebound from a bad April. It's a 6-month season. Their core is still phenomenal. They're just underperforming. I would not look past them. They are a team hiding in the shadows here. And whether or not I like that or not is irrelevant. The numbers show this week they're down 25, but I do not expect them to stay there. Keep an eye on them in May and June as the season starts kicking and the heat starts coming. Coming in at number 24, the aforementioned Detroit Tigers. Having gone through Boston and Chicago White Sox, 2 teams I've just mentioned, they went 2 wins and 3 losses between the 3 of them, so they didn't have a stellar week either. But then again, if you take a look at the bottom third of the entire league, your analysts at Major League Baseball and ESPN generally don't cover the bottom third because there's not much to talk about. These are teams that are struggling, have fundamental holes in their team, or having bad weeks. In this case, they're going to finish probably, they have a couple more games in the season, but right now they're at 12 wins and 13 losses, and they are down 3 from last week. I don't see them making mid-rank for mid-level here going into April or to May, but we'll see what happens. Anything is possible. They have had some surprising games. They're just not consistent with any of it. Coming in at number 23, the Pittsburgh Pirates. They were down 14, the largest jump of any team, or largest drop of any team, largest move of the entire power rankings, because they went 0-6. They're on a massive losing streak right now, having gotten really beat up by the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are doing well this week, and the Los Angeles Dodgers, with whom have been doing well all season long. They finished the week at 12 wins and 13 losses, but they had an absolutely dreadful week, dropping 6 straight, not a single win all week long. So there's your biggest move of the week. They're down 14. Coming at number 22, the Washington Nationals. They are down 3. As you can see here, the entire week so far has been teams that have either not moved at all, barely moved, or just plain dropped. Again, these are all your struggling teams that are having bad weeks and or are fundamentally flawed in one way or the other. Washington, having won 2 wins and 4 losses against the Colorado Rockies, who are not doing well this week, but have not shown up yet. We'll get to them. And the San Diego Padres, with whom everybody thought was going to have stellar year because of the Manny Machado, but he's one player. The whole team has to play well. Having said that, Washington still had a bad week. They have some core fundamentals, and they are predicted to challenge for the division, but in April and this week alone, they did not have a great week, and they're at 11 wins and 14 losses, down 3. And rounding out the bottom 10 of the league, just to get them out of the way, because as much as teams, the fans of these respective teams would like to know more about them, at the same time, the vast majority of the league want to know about the better performing teams. So, rounding out the bottom 10 are the Los Angeles Angels, having dropped 3 out of 4 to the New York Yankees, and then not perform much better against the Kansas City Royals. They have won 3 and lost 4. They are 11 and 17 on the season, and they are up 4. Not because they had a stellar week, because 3 wins and 4 losses is not stellar, but they haven't performed as badly as the rest of the leagues, rest of these teams so far. So they get the benefit of jumping up despite not playing well. Now, coming in at number 20, the Cincinnati Reds, who had a very, very average week. 3 wins, 3 losses against Atlanta and St. Louis, mediocre teams. They are up 3 because they finished 500 for the week, and the rest of these all had subpar weeks. They get the benefit of having played very average, but they end up, instead of being up here, they get to stay out of the bottom row. Congratulations, Cincinnati, for not falling into the bottom rung, from making up to the second rung here. So they are up 3. They're out of the cellar. Congratulations. At number 19, the Atlanta Braves, who had a poor week. They're down 1 from last week at 2 wins and 4 losses, playing the Cincinnati Reds and the Colorado Rockies. Cincinnati, who has not shown up, or who are right below them, and the Colorado Rockies, who you haven't seen yet, but you'll see them soon. They had, unfortunately, a subpar week, but it didn't kill them because they still had enough points going into this week that they managed to stay in the middle row. There aren't going to be too many teams that had subpar weeks and stay up here unless they've had a very strong start and it didn't kill them. Coming in at number 18, the New York Mets. I honestly thought they would be a little better by now, but they are in a very tough division, and you have to perform on the field to rise in the power rankings. They went 2 wins and 4 losses, having played the Philadelphia Phillies and the Milwaukee Brewers. They did not exactly have an easy hand because the Philadelphia Phillies and the Milwaukee Brewers got off to strong starts this season. Therefore, they are at 13-13, a very average record, and they're down 3 this week. They probably won't stay there. They just had a bad week. They played some tough teams, and they just held their own, playing very average ball. Coming in at number 17, as I've been hinting on before, the Colorado Rockies. They are up 9. They had among the best weeks of the week. The best records for the week were 5-0, 6-1, and Colorado coming in at 5 wins and 1 loss. They went in and they beat up on the Washington Nationals and the Atlanta Braves. They have earned every bit of jumping up 9 pieces this week. Despite the fact that they're at 13 wins and 14 losses, they had a stellar week, and therefore they've earned the right to rise up into the middle rung here. Congratulations, Colorado. You started off the season kind of rocky, splitting the first 4 games of the season against Miami, but this week, at least, you have earned the right to be number 17 here. That is a phenomenal week. 5-1, you really can't ask for much better than that. At number 16, the Chicago Cubs, who went 4 wins and 2 losses, and against good teams, the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Arizona Diamondbacks. It brings their overall record to 13-12. They're up 3 from last week, and winning 4 and losing 2 in 6 games during the course of the week. That's your 2 out of 3. That's what every manager preaches you want to do consistently throughout the season. They did exactly what they needed to do. It sucked to drop 2 games, sure, but considering the competition you're against, you had a good week. You can hang your hat on that. Good job. You got some good leadership in Joe Madden, and in the front and the back office, you've got some decent pitchers and some decent lineup. It's all a matter of putting it together. You're talking about the same team who just a few years ago beat the Cleveland Indians in the World Series. So they still have many of those core pieces there. It's all a matter of when they gel and when they don't gel. They had a good week this week. We'll see how well they progress throughout the season. Coming in at number 15, the Texas Rangers, who are 13-13 on the season. They are down 3 this week because they had a very subpar week. They won 2 and lost 5 against Oakland and Seattle. Now, granted, considering Seattle has been a very strong team this season so far, you kind of can't fault them too much, because if you lose to a phenomenal team, you chalk it up and move on. But here's the thing, they didn't even hold their own. These are division rivals, and if you don't win your division, you don't go anywhere. And they had a very poor week doing it. So because they were pretty strong in previous weeks, they're not all the way down here despite having a very subpar week. But they just really kind of blew it against their division this week. Whether or not they can rebound, who knows? It's the first series against these teams, so it's not like it's going to kill you. You're going to play these guys 18 times each. So they have plenty of time to make it up, but they did have a bad week. Coming in at number 14 are the Toronto Blue Jays. The Toronto Blue Jays have been making headlines as of yesterday because Vladimir Guerrero's son made his Major League debut and contributed to their walk-off win yesterday, in which, while he didn't score the game-winning runs, he was the man on second when the two-run homer was hit behind him. So they got the benefit of that win and lets them finish off the week at 3 wins and 2 losses. Now, having been his first game, he didn't contributing 1 win helps them a bit above 500 for the week, but they're still 13 and 14 on the season, and they're down 1 from last week. But they did make the headlines with Vladdy Jr.'s start, and we'll see if that helps him over the coming weeks. Toronto, having gone through San Francisco and Oakland, had a fairly decent opportunity this week to do something about it because San Francisco's down here, and they did beat Oakland last night. So we'll see how well Vladdy how much of an impact he has going forward. But this week they are down at 14. Coming in at number 13, the Oakland Athletics, a team that started the season up here, has been leveling out, as I kind of figured they might, because while they had a very strong start, they didn't have enough depth in their talent pool, in their rotation, in their farm system to be able to maintain that against the rest of the league throughout a long, long season. They are down 3 from last week, finishing at 14 wins and 15 losses, but they did have a slightly above average week, going 3 wins and 2 losses against Texas Rangers and the Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto, having gotten Vladdy, just beat them last night, and Texas had a terrible week, so they got the benefit of that. But despite that, it's not like they went 5-0. They went 3-2 on the week, so they are falling just a little bit, down 3. Coming in at 12, to all those who are Minnesota fans, Twins, you are up 2. Congratulations. Being at 15 wins and 9 losses, I get it that you probably feel that Minnesota should probably be higher up there. But based upon their season to date, they did have a very good week, winning 4 games and 2 losses this week against the Houston Astros and the Baltimore Orioles. But cumulatively, throughout the whole season, they haven't been performing up to haven't been getting a lot of points in there to be higher. They're down here at 12, but they are up 2. And they did do well against the Houston Astros. So congratulations to Twins fans. Enjoy that. And if they continue to perform well, I'm sure they will continue to rise. Coming in at number 11, to round out the middle row here of average weeks and some subpar weeks, some better weeks, depending on how teams have performed to date, are the Milwaukee Brewers, who are down 6. They were up here and they fell down here, having had a subpar week, winning 2 wins and losing 4 against the St. Louis Cardinals and the New York Mets. They have Christian Yelich continues to perform well, continues to make headlines, but he's only one player. Ultimately, they had a bad week, and so they paid the price for falling out of the top 10. I believe for the first time this year. I have to go back and check my records, but this week they finish off at number 10 or 11. Now, having gone through the first 2 rows, the all-important top 10, the best teams in the league. This is one where it causes much debate, I'm sure, but this is also the most interesting row of the entire group. And starting off, the top 10, coming in at 10, the Cleveland Indians, who are 15-11 on the season. I grant you, not as good as the Minnesota Twins, but they've had, this is based upon wins and play on the field. They are down 2 from last week, which is kind of what saved them considering they had a very subpar week. They went 3-3. It's a 500 week against Miami and Houston. Houston being a tough competitor, but Miami being kind of a pushover. Having said that, they are down a little bit, but not enough to drop them out of the top 10. They get to leverage their previous season performance to stay in the top 10 for the week. So, coming in at number 9, the St. Louis Cardinals, who are up 7, one of the largest jumps of the week. Not the largest, we've had 8 and 9 up, but St. Louis coming in at 7 up because they had a phenomenal week. They went 5 wins and 1 loss against Milwaukee and Cincinnati. Their success against Milwaukee and Cincinnati are what allowed them to make a big jump and come up to number 9. They are at 16-10, so they're having a great start. They're at 6 games above 500, and they are starting to show their colors. We'll see how well they're able to maintain that, but so far they had a great week, and they get well rewarded for it. Coming at number 8, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Also, massive jump, more than St. Louis. They are up 8 from last week, finishing with a 16-12 record, 4 games above 500, but they went 5 wins and 2 losses against the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Chicago Cubs. Average teams, grant you, Pittsburgh being all the way down here, Chicago being here, but they had a good week and they won the games you're supposed to win. If you want to succeed, when you go against teams that are not having good seasons and you beat up on them, you're doing what you're supposed to do. They had a great week with going 5-2, so they get to enjoy their power ranking of 8 for the week. Coming in at number 7, the Houston Astros. I'm sure the fact that they're in the top 10 is of no surprise to anybody, but they are down this week. They had a subpar week, winning 3 wins and losing 4 games against the Minnesota Twins and the Cleveland Indians. But they're still a phenomenal team. They're still going to give their division a lot of trouble. And even though they had a subpar week, because they have had a very strong season so far, they get to stay in the top 10. Coming in at number 6, and I'm sure Phillies fans will be very happy to hear this, you get to stay in the top 10 this week. You rise 1 from last week, so good job. Despite the fact that you only had 3 wins and 4 losses against the New York Mets and the Miami Marlins. Considering the fact that you're playing divisional rivals, I expect better from you, Phillies fans. Come on. Your boys are good. You've got Harper, you got Romano, you got Nola, you got a whole deep rotation and players here. I expect better than 3 out of 4 out of you guys. Come on, boys. They're up 1 this week. They're at 15-12 on the season, 3 games above 500. But I'm expecting better from you guys. Let's see what you can do. Coming in out, we have the all-important top 5. This is where things get really interesting. You've got your top performers, your best weeks, and your strongest teams of the league. And this is what everybody looks for when they're looking at power rankings. Coming in at number 5, the San Diego Padres. They are up 3 this week, having what you could technically consider the best week of everybody, having gone 5 wins and 0 losses, having a perfect week. But technically, having 6 wins on a week I've kind of favored as having the best week of the year, of this week, because you won more games. But that was due to virtue of having played more games. They've only played 5 games and they won all of them. The best performer of the week played 7 games. So you got the virtue of playing extra games. It happens. You have rainouts, you have makeup games, you have a full schedule of no days off. It happens. Either way, I still feel it's worth notable that they had technically the best week of everybody, having been undefeated the whole week, playing Seattle and Washington. They're up 30 from last week and sit at 5 games over 500 at 16-11. Now, here's a surprise for you. This next team, I'm sure after the whole season to date, you'll probably be very surprised by. The Seattle Mariners. They fall 3. They have been dethroned from the top spot by having a subpar week, going 2 wins and 4 losses against the San Diego Padres, like I mentioned, undefeated this week, and the Texas Rangers, who had a very average week. Texas being 2-5, so not average week, a very poor week, but they still managed to hold their own against division rival Seattle Mariners. Enough that Seattle finished with a very poor schedule, a very poor week. They're down 3. They're still 6 games over 500, 18-12, but they've managed to be dethroned from the top spot. And who do you think might have dethroned them? Coming in at number 3, with whom I have ranked as the best week of the entire league, because they've won the most games of anybody for the whole week with 6 wins and 1 loss, the New York Yankees. Having gone into LA, taken 3 out of 4, then going into San Francisco and winning 2. They're playing the 3rd game now. But for the purpose of power rankings, I cut that off on Saturday. So they have won 6 games and lost 1, and a very full week, and they get a massive jump of 8. This is the first time that the New York Yankees have made it into the top 10, and they leapfrog all these teams to do it because they had a phenomenal week, despite having the most players on the injured list of everybody. Their depth has shined this week, going through the LA Angels and the San Francisco Giants. So good job, New York. This is, I'm sure very few people saw that coming. Coming in at number 2, the Tampa Bay Rays. They are in the exact same spot as last week, having won 3 games and 2 losses against the Kansas City Royals and the Boston Red Sox. But they are at 17-9 on the year, and they're just continuing to play very strong baseball. Will they be able to do it all year long? We don't know. But for this week, despite the fact that they had technically a subpar week, they still maintain their spot at number 2. So now, with Seattle down at number 4, who could possibly be the new number 1 team of the week? Well, that honor, my thing fell, goes to, probably no surprise to anybody, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Los Angeles, having won 4 games and lost 2 against the Chicago Cubs and the Pittsburgh Pirates, are up 2 this week. They've leapfrogged over Tampa Bay due to the dethroning of Seattle, and they finished this week at 18 wins and 11 losses, being 7 games over 500. Congratulations, LA. You have now claimed the top spot. You are the first team to be in the to dethrone the Seattle Mariners and take over the top spot. Congratulations. Enjoy the ride. I wish you great fortune as you go through the next week. So that's our power rankings for this week. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Do you feel somebody should have been higher, so it should have been lower? What are your thoughts and opinions? The objective here is to be completely biased, which is why it's based upon points. Points being 3 wins for 9-inning win, 0 points for 9-inning loss, and should you go into extra innings, those 3 points for a win are now split between both teams, with the victor getting 2 and the loser getting 1. Having said that, this gives you a mathematical definitive ranking for all teams based on objectivity, not subjectivity. I heard somebody comment about how because I'm a Yankees fan, I'm being biased. And here's the reality of the matter is, I had New York down at like 11 or 12 last week, and ESPN had them up at 6. I mean, If I was showing any bias, I probably would have found a way to put them up at number 1. But that's not the way this works. We're keeping this objective and keeping it interesting. So if you just happen to be browsing through the web and come across this video, I invite you to click subscribe and like on the channel. And please continue to tune in each week as we reveal the power rankings based upon how all the teams perform on the field. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Have a great week and enjoy the games. Thank you.